Excuse me, but this area is for hotel guests only. Olivia Taylor paused, her hand still gripping the pool chair she'd been adjusting. She looked up, squinting against the bright California sun, to see a young white woman in a crisp hotel uniform hovering over her. The name tag read, Ashley Guest Relations. Olivia adjusted her sunglasses. I am a guest here. Ashley's lips tightened into a forced smile. Do you have your room key or wristband to verify that? The question hung in the air between them. Olivia could feel the eyes of other pool guests, mostly white families with children splashing in the azure water, suddenly fixed on this interaction. The luxurious Westwood Grand Hotel pool deck fell eerily quiet except for the ambient splash of water and distant traffic from Sunset Boulevard. My room key is upstairs. I just came down to secure a spot before the pool gets crowded. Olivia gestured to her bag. I have my hotel app on my phone, if that helps. Ashley's smile didn't waver, but her eyes hardened. I'm afraid that's not sufficient. We've had issues with non-guests using our facilities recently. The way she emphasized non-guests made Olivia's skin prickle with familiar heat. She'd been here before, not at this hotel, but in this situation. The carefully worded implications, the polite suspicion reserved for people who looked like her. I'm staying in room 718. You can call up to verify. Olivia kept her voice level, professional, the same voice she used in boardrooms when men talked over her. That won't be necessary. Hotel policy requires all pool guests to have visible verification. Ashley's voice carried just enough to ensure everyone nearby could hear. If you'd like to retrieve your room key, you're welcome to return. Behind Ashley, a white couple settled into pool chairs without being questioned. Neither had visible wristbands or key cards. Olivia noted this silently, her jaw tightening. I see. And are you verifying everyone's guest status or just mine? Ashley's professional demeanor flickered for just a moment. We're checking everyone, ma'am. It's standard procedure. Is it? Olivia stood now, her full height matching Ashley's. Because I've been watching the pool area for 15 minutes and you haven't approached anyone else. A muscle twitched in Ashley's cheek. If you're uncomfortable with our security protocols, perhaps I should call the manager. I think that's an excellent idea. Olivia reached for her phone. In fact, why don't I record our conversation while we wait? For clarity's sake. Ashley's eyes widened slightly. Recording is not permitted on hotel property without consent. Interesting policy. Is that written somewhere? Olivia was already scrolling through her contacts. Another hotel employee approached, a man in his 40s with Richard Stevens security embroidered on his polo shirt. His hand rested casually near his walkie-talkie. Is there a problem here? His voice carried the practiced authority of someone used to dealing with situations. Ashley turned quickly. This woman claims to be a guest but has no verification. She's becoming confrontational. The security officer gave Olivia a quick once-over, taking in her simple black swimsuit cover-up, her natural hair pulled back in a bun, her lack of flashy jewelry. His assessment was brief but thorough, and in that moment, Olivia knew exactly what he saw. A problem, not a patron. Ma'am, I'll need you to come with me. His tone left no room for discussion. We can sort this out away from the pool area. Around them, families were staring openly now. A young white girl whispered something to her mother. An older man shook his head. The weight of their collective judgment pressed down like the California heat. Olivia didn't move. I'd like to speak with the hotel manager, please. Ma'am, either you come with me now or I'll be forced to escort you out. Richard's hand moved to his radio. Your choice. The humiliation burned hotter than the sun overhead. Olivia had faced this before. The public questioning, the implied threat, the audience of onlookers who assumed guilt rather than innocence. But this time was different. This time, Olivia wasn't just any hotel guest. "Before you make that call," Olivia said evenly, "you might want to check with Jefferson Hospitality Group's corporate office. Ask for Olivia Taylor." Richard's expression didn't change. "Ma'am, I don't—" "That's what I thought." Olivia reached into her bag and pulled out her phone. With deliberate calm, she dialed a number from memory. "Hello, Rebecca. Yes, it's Olivia. I'm at the Westwood Grand for my pre-acquisition stay. Could you please send over my executive profile to the front desk? It seems the staff is having trouble recognizing who I am." She listened for a moment, then smiled tightly. No need to speak with the GM yet. I'd rather experience how they typically treat their guests. It's been educational so far." Olivia ended the call and turned back to Richard and Ashley, whose expressions had shifted from confident authority to uncertain confusion. "Starting Monday, I'll be the new CEO of Jefferson Hospitality Group, which just acquired this hotel along with 16 others in your chain. I'm staying here unannounced to assess the guest experience." Her voice remained professional, controlled. "And so far, I've learned quite a lot about how your staff profiles certain guests." The color drained from Ashley's face. Richard's hand dropped from his radio as if it had suddenly become electrified. "Now," Olivia continued, settling back into her chair, "I think I'll enjoy the pool after all, and I'd appreciate it if you'd bring me a glass of the fresh lemonade I saw other guests enjoying. Then perhaps we can discuss why some guests need a verification while others don't." As they stood frozen, Olivia opened her book, Leading Through Crisis: Executive Strategies for Turnaround Management, and began to read. The pool area remained silent for several long seconds. Then whispers spread like ripples across water. Olivia didn't look up. She simply turned the page, knowing that by tomorrow nothing at the Westwood Grand would be the same. Olivia Taylor hadn't planned to reveal her identity so soon. The entire purpose of her unannounced 3-day stay was to experience the Westwood Grand Hotel as any guest would, to feel the service culture, observe staff interactions, and understand why this flagship property of the Preston Hotel Group, now acquired by her company, Jefferson Hospitality, had such wildly inconsistent guest satisfaction scores. Now, less than 4 hours after checking in, her cover was blown. As Ashley and Richard retreated from the pool area, the damage control machine was already whirring to life. Olivia could practically hear the panicked phone calls racing through the hotel's hierarchy. She kept her eyes on her book, turning pages with deliberate calm, though the words blurred before her. Her phone vibrated. A text from Rebecca, her chief of staff. "Hotel GM Thomas Preston just called our office in complete panic. Says there's been a terrible misunderstanding with a valued guest. Should I run interference?" Olivia typed back, "No. Let him sweat." The lemonade arrived within minutes, delivered not by Ashley or Richard, but by a young Latino man whose name tag read Miguel Pool Service. His hands trembled slightly as he placed the drink on Olivia's side table. "Ms. Taylor, please accept this with our compliments," he said softly, not meeting her eyes. "Thank you, Miguel." Olivia looked up, making sure to establish eye contact. "How long have you worked at the Westwood Grand?" Surprise flickered across his face, perhaps at being acknowledged by name, perhaps at being asked about himself. 3 years, ma'am." "And do you enjoy it here?" Miguel glanced nervously around the pool area, where other guests were still watching with undisguised interest. "It's a good job, ma'am." "I see," Olivia nodded. "Thank you for the lemonade." As Miguel walked away, Olivia noted how his shoulders remained tense, his posture submissive. Another data point about the culture of this hotel. Another reason her work here would be challenging. 30 minutes later, as Olivia was about to close her book, a shadow fell across her lounger. She looked up to see a tall man in his 50s, immaculately dressed in a tailored suit despite the summer heat. His silver hair was perfectly coiffed, his smile practiced and camera-ready. She recognized him immediately from the company photos. Thomas Preston, general manager of the Westwood Grand and son of the hotel group's founder. "Ms. Taylor," he began, extending his hand. "I cannot begin to express how deeply sorry I am about this unfortunate incident." Olivia closed her book and set it aside before shaking his hand. His grip was firm, confident, the handshake of someone used to controlling situations. "Mr. Preston, I wasn't expecting a personal visit. Please call me Thomas." His smile widened, showing perfect veneers. "When I heard what happened, I came immediately. This is absolutely not reflective of our values or our typical guest experience." Olivia noticed he was perspiring slightly at the temples, the only crack in his polished veneer. "Isn't it, though?" Because it seemed very procedural. Very practiced. Thomas lowered his voice, leaning in slightly. "May I suggest we continue this conversation somewhere more private? Perhaps in our executive lounge." Olivia considered him for a moment. "No, I don't think so. I've been told this pool is for hotel guests only, and I've finally been allowed to enjoy it." She gestured to the empty chair beside her. "But you're welcome to join me here." Thomas hesitated, then sat stiffly on the edge of the lounger. Being seen negotiating poolside was clearly not part of his crisis management playbook. "Ms. Taylor, I want to personally assure you that what happened was an isolated incident. The staff members involved have been temporarily removed from guest-facing duties, pending an investigation." "Temporarily?" Olivia raised an eyebrow. "So they'll be back once I leave?" Thomas's smile faltered. "That's not what I—" "Mr. Preston, let me be clear." Olivia leaned forward. "I'm not interested in having 2 employees scapegoated for what is obviously a systemic issue. Ashley and Richard didn't create a culture where black guests are viewed with suspicion. They're simply products of it. Around them, other hotel guests were pretending not to listen while hanging on every word. I assure you, Ms. Taylor, we have extensive diversity training programs, which clearly aren't working." Olivia cut him off again. "Let me ask you something. How many people of color are on your executive team?" Thomas blinked. "I'd have to check the exact—" "None. The answer is none." Olivia's voice remained calm, but her eyes held his. "How many black department heads?" "We have a very diverse staff at all levels." 1. Housekeeping, a department where 95% of your staff are people of color, all in the lowest paid positions in the hotel. Olivia had done her homework before this acquisition. Your executive committee has 9 members, all white, 7 men, 2 women. Your mid-level management is 87% white. Yet the city of Los Angeles is only 28% white. Thomas shifted uncomfortably. "Ms. Taylor, I understand your concern, but I assure you, we hire based on qualifications, not another word." Olivia held up her hand. "Unless you want to make this situation worse." She stood, gathering her book and phone. Thomas scrambled to his feet beside her. "Our first official meeting was supposed to be Monday morning with your executive team," Olivia said. "But given today's events, I think we need to accelerate that timeline. I'd like to meet with your entire leadership team tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. "Tomorrow is Sunday," Thomas protested weakly. "Yes, it is." Olivia smiled without warmth. "And I expect everyone to be there. In the meantime, I'd suggest you do not discipline Ashley or Richard. Their actions today were symptoms, not causes." She turned to leave, then paused. Oh, and Mr. Preston, I'll be changing rooms immediately. Please have someone deliver a key to the presidential suite to me at the front desk. I assume it's available? Of course, but excellent. Since I'll be paying special attention to this property, I should experience your best accommodations. She held his gaze. And Mr. Preston, have the new key delivered by someone other than Ashley or Richard. I'd hate for them to have to verify my identity again. As Olivia walked away, she could feel the eyes of every guest following her. The whispers would spread. By evening, the story would have traveled throughout the hotel, both among guests and staff. Good. Sometimes the most effective change started with a whisper and grew into a roar. When she'd taken the CEO position at Jefferson Hospitality Group, 6 months ago, Olivia had promised the board she would transform their collection of underperforming hotels into industry leaders. What she hadn't told them was that transformation would go far beyond balance sheets and occupancy rates. As she crossed the pool deck toward the hotel entrance, Olivia pulled out her phone and texted Rebecca, "Move up the timeline, full audit team here tomorrow by noon, and call Brandon in legal. We're going to need him." The battle for the soul of Westwood Grand, and by extension, all 17 properties in the newly expanded Jefferson Hospitality Group, had begun, and Olivia Taylor never started a fight she didn't intend to finish. The hushed whispers followed Olivia through the elegant lobby of the Westwood Grand. Staff members who hadn't been poolside had clearly heard something was happening. They cast nervous glances her way, then quickly averted their eyes when she looked in their direction. At the front desk, a young black woman named Zara greeted her with professional courtesy, though her eyes held a hint of something more. Recognition, perhaps, not of Olivia specifically, but of the situation. "Ms. Taylor, I have your new key ready for the presidential suite." Her voice was low, efficient. "We've also arranged for your belongings to be transferred immediately." "Thank you, Zara." Olivia accepted the key card. "How long have you worked at the Westwood Grand?" "Just over a year, Ms. Taylor." Olivia nodded, noting how Zara's name tag showed no title, just her name. "Are you always assigned to front desk?" A slight hesitation. "I work wherever I'm needed. Front desk, concierge, occasionally events." "I see. And how would you describe your experience here?" Zara's professional smile remained fixed, but her eyes darted briefly to her colleague at the next station, a young white man who was pretending not to listen. "It's been very educational, Ms. Taylor." The careful choice of words spoke volumes. Olivia nodded again, understanding the subtext perfectly. "Thank you, Zara. I may have some additional questions for you later." As Olivia turned away, she caught Zara's reflection in the polished marble column, the slight straightening of her shoulders, the momentary closing of her eyes, a familiar gesture of someone gathering strength. Olivia had done it herself countless times. The presidential suite on the top floor of the Westwood Grand occupied the entire West Wing, offering panoramic views of Los Angeles from downtown to the Pacific Ocean. As Olivia entered, she noted the extravagant touches: fresh orchids on every surface, a chilled bottle of Dom Perignon, a handwritten welcome note from Thomas Preston that had clearly been hastily arranged in the last 30 minutes. She ignored it all and went straight to the dining room, where she unpacked her laptop and began to work. The confrontation at the pool had changed her approach. What was supposed to be a quiet observation period would now become a full-scale intervention. Olivia pulled up the preliminary acquisition reports on the Preston Hotel Group. 17 properties across the country, all high-end, all with stellar reputations in the hospitality industry. And yet, when Olivia's team had conducted anonymous guest satisfaction surveys during the due diligence period, a disturbing pattern emerged. White guests reported exceptional service, 4.8 out of 5 stars. guests of color reported merely adequate service, 3.2 out of 5 stars. Black guests specifically, 2.7 out of 5. The Preston board had dismissed these findings during acquisition talks. Statistically insignificant sample size, they claimed. Subjective experiences that can't be quantified, they argued. Olivia knew better. The numbers told a story that the Preston leadership refused to see, or more likely, chose to ignore. A soft knock interrupted her thoughts. Olivia opened the door to find a young man in a hotel uniform with a service cart. "Ms. Taylor, I've brought your belongings from your previous room." "Thank you." Olivia stepped aside to let him enter. His name tag read David Bell Services. As David carefully transferred her suitcase and hanging bag to the bedroom, Olivia noticed his movements were precise, almost nervous. Another staff member walking on eggshells. "David, may I ask you something?" He turned, surprised. "Of course, ma'am." "How would you describe the management style here at the Westwood Grand?" David's eyes widened slightly. He glanced toward the open door as if checking whether anyone might be listening. "It's very structured, ma'am." "Structured how?" "Well," he hesitated. "Mr. Preston has very specific expectations. Everything has to be done exactly according to protocol." "And what happens when protocols aren't followed?" David's gaze dropped to the floor. "People don't last long here if they don't follow protocols." Olivia nodded. "Thank you for your honesty, David." After he left, Olivia returned to her computer, opening a new document titled Westwood Grand Cultural Assessment. At the top, she typed, "Staff appears fearful of management. Hierarchy strictly enforced. Protocols prioritized over guest experience, unless guest fits preferred demographic." Her phone rang, Rebecca calling from the corporate office. "Olivia, I've assembled the audit team as requested. They'll arrive tomorrow at 11 a.m. Brandon from legal is flying in tonight." "Good. Have them bring the complete diversity and inclusion audit frameworks. I want everything. Hiring practices, promotion histories, customer complaint records with demographic data, and incident reports for the past 5 years." "That's extensive." Rebecca sounded surprised. "The Preston acquisition agreement only allows for standard operational audits during the transition period." "Check paragraph 17.3 of the agreement," Olivia replied. "Jefferson Hospitality reserves the right to conduct comprehensive cultural assessments to ensure alignment with corporate values." "I'll find it." Rebecca paused. "Olivia, what exactly happened today?" Olivia walked to the window, looking out at the sprawling city below. "What happened is that I got a preview of what some of our guests experience every day, and it's going to stop." After ending the call, Olivia opened her email to find a message from Thomas Preston, sent just minutes ago. "Ms. Taylor, I've arranged for our executive team to meet tomorrow, as requested. We'll convene in the grand boardroom at 8 a.m. sharp. While this is highly unusual timing, we understand the importance of addressing your concerns promptly. Again, please accept my personal apology for today's regrettable incident. I've taken the liberty of arranging a special dinner for you tonight in our Michelin-starred restaurant, The Terrace. Chef Montgomery will prepare a personalized tasting menu at your convenience. Respectfully, Thomas Preston General Manager Olivia read the email twice, noting the careful wording, the attempt to placate her with exclusive perks, the same playbook that had likely worked with other disgruntled VIP guests in the past. A private dinner, some personal attention, perhaps a gift basket, and problems magically disappeared. But Olivia wasn't interested in special treatment for herself. She was focused on the standard treatment for everyone else. She typed a brief reply. "Mr. Preston, thank you for arranging tomorrow's meeting. Please ensure all department heads are present in addition to the executive team. I'll decline dinner at the Terrace. Instead, I'll be ordering room service this evening. anonymously as a regular guest would, to assess your standard service protocols. See you tomorrow at 8 a.m. Olivia Taylor, CEO, Jefferson Hospitality Group. As night fell over Los Angeles, Olivia stood on the suite's balcony watching the city lights flicker to life. From this height, the Westwood Grand seemed to stand apart from the urban sprawl, exclusive, untouchable. But nothing was untouchable, not anymore. Sunday morning arrived with a perfect California sunrise streaming through the presidential suite's floor-to-ceiling windows. Olivia had been awake since 5 a.m., reviewing documents, preparing her approach. Her years in corporate leadership had taught her that meetings like this were won or lost in the preparation. At 7:15, she received a text from Brandon, in the lobby with the audit team. Ready when you are. Hold there, she replied. I'll come down at 7:45. I want the executive team assembled and waiting before we arrive. Olivia dressed with careful intention, a tailored navy suit, minimal jewelry except for her pearl necklace with its hidden camera, hair pulled back in a sleek low bun, professional, authoritative, unmistakably in command. At precisely 7:43, she stepped into the elevator and descended to the lobby, where Brandon waited with 4 other members of her team, all carrying tablets and briefcases, all wearing expressions of focused determination. Brandon approached first, giving her a brief professional hug. Good to see you, Olivia, though I wish it were under better circumstances. Sometimes the best changes come from uncomfortable moments, she replied, then turned to the others. Thank you all for coming in on a Sunday. What we do today will set the tone for our entire organization going forward. As they crossed the lobby toward the conference center, Olivia noticed how hotel staff tracked their movement with nervous glances. Word had clearly spread about what was coming. The grand boardroom lived up to its name, a massive space dominated by a gleaming mahogany table, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the hotel's perfectly manicured gardens. As Olivia entered, 14 people rose to their feet. The Westwood Grand's entire leadership team, with Thomas Preston at the head of the table. Good morning, Olivia said, taking her position at the opposite end of the table. Thank you for adjusting your schedules. Thomas stepped forward, hand extended. Ms. Taylor, welcome. We're all eager to address your concerns and move forward productively. Olivia shook his hand briefly, then gestured for everyone to sit. Her team remained standing, positioned strategically around the room. Before we begin, Olivia said, I'd like to introduce my colleagues. Brandon Mitchell, our Chief Legal Officer. Amara Okafor, Head of Human Resources. Daniel Park, Vice President of Operations. Rachel Goldman, Director of Diversity and Inclusion. And Teresa Martinez, our Head of Audit. As each name was mentioned, the corresponding team member nodded. Olivia noticed the subtle reactions from the Westwood executives, the slight widening of eyes at the diversity of her leadership team, the nervous glances at the mention of legal, HR, and audit, all in the same introduction. Now, Olivia continued, I believe introductions are in order from your team as well, Mr. Preston. Thomas cleared his throat. Of course. Starting to my right, James Whitman, our Assistant General Manager. Patricia Coleman, Director of Sales. Michael Bradshaw, Food and Beverage Director. As each executive was introduced, Olivia noted what Thomas had clearly hoped she wouldn't. Every senior leader was white. The only people of color in the room were in support roles: housekeeping, human resources, and engineering. When the introductions concluded, Olivia remained silent for a moment, letting the imbalance speak for itself. Thank you, she finally said. Now, I had originally planned to begin our working relationship with a standard transition meeting tomorrow. However, yesterday's incident has necessitated a different approach. Thomas leaned forward. Ms. Taylor, if I may— You may not, Olivia cut him off smoothly. Not yet. First, I want to ensure everyone in this room understands exactly what happened yesterday without sanitization or corporate spin. She nodded to Brandon, who activated a projection screen on the wall. A video began to play, Olivia's perspective of the pool incident, captured by her necklace camera. The crystal-clear footage showed Ashley approaching, the questioning, the security officer's intervention, and finally Olivia's revelation of her identity. The room was utterly silent as the video played. Olivia watched their faces carefully. Some showed genuine shock, others discomfort, and a few displayed a telling lack of surprise. When the video ended, Olivia spoke into the silence. "This is not an isolated incident. This is not a case of one or two employees making a poor judgment call. This is the natural result of a culture that views certain guests as inherently suspicious, based solely on their appearance." She turned to Thomas. "Mr. Preston, after our conversation yesterday, you assured me that Ashley and Richard had been temporarily removed from guest-facing duties. Is that correct?" Thomas shifted uncomfortably. "Yes, that's correct. Pending our investigation." "An investigation that would have gone nowhere," Olivia interrupted, "because the problem isn't Ashley or Richard. The problem is systemic." She gestured to Teresa, who distributed tablets to each person at the table. "What you're receiving is a preliminary audit of guest satisfaction scores for the Westwood Grand over the past 3 years, broken down by guest demographics. Please take a moment to review the data." The room filled with the sound of tapping screens as the executives scrolled through the report. Olivia watched their expressions change as they absorbed the stark numbers. The consistent pattern of lower satisfaction scores from guests of color, the higher frequency of security-related incidents involving non-white guests, the clustering of complaints about unfriendly service and excessive questioning from black guests specifically. "This is not coincidental," Olivia said after giving them a few minutes to review. "This is not subjective. This is measurable, actionable data that no one in this organization has bothered to examine until now." James Whitman, the assistant GM, was the first to respond. "With all due respect, Ms. Taylor, guest satisfaction can be influenced by many factors, cultural expectations, personal preferences." "Are you suggesting," Olivia cut in, her voice dangerously quiet, "that guests of color simply have unreasonable expectations? That when black guests consistently report being treated with suspicion, it's their perception that's flawed, not your service model?" James flushed red. "That's not what I—" "It's exactly what you implied," Olivia said. "And that mindset is precisely why we're sitting here today." She stood, commanding the room's full attention. "Let me be absolutely clear. As of Monday morning, Jefferson Hospitality Group officially takes operational control of the Westwood Grand and all Preston properties, and our first order of business will be a comprehensive overhaul of your service culture, hiring practices, and management structure." Thomas Preston's face hardened. "Ms. Taylor, while we respect your position as our new corporate owner, the acquisition agreement clearly states that existing management teams will remain in place for a minimum transition period of 6 months." "I'm familiar with the agreement, Mr. Preston." Olivia's smile was razor sharp. "I'm also familiar with Section 23.7, which states that Jefferson Hospitality reserves the right to implement immediate leadership changes in cases of significant operational failure or conduct contrary to core brand values." She nodded to Brandon, who stepped forward. "Our legal team has determined that systematic discrimination against guests based on race constitutes both an operational failure and a violation of our core values," Brandon explained, his voice calm but authoritative. "This morning, we filed the necessary documentation to invoke Section 23.7 effective immediately. The shock in the room was palpable. Thomas's face had gone from red to white. "This is outrageous," he sputtered. "One isolated incident doesn't justify—" "It wasn't isolated," Olivia interrupted. "Your own data proves it, and more importantly, your response to that data, or lack thereof, demonstrates a fundamental failure of leadership." She turned to address the entire room. "To be perfectly clear, I am not here to punish individuals. I am here to transform a system. Some of you will be part of that transformation. Others will not. That decision will be based on your actions moving forward, not just your words today." Olivia nodded to Amara, who distributed another set of documents. "What you're receiving now is our 90-day transformation plan. It includes mandatory bias training for all staff, a complete restructuring of security protocols, revised hiring and promotion practices with clear diversity benchmarks, and a new guest feedback system that specifically tracks equitable treatment." The room was silent as they reviewed the detailed plan. Olivia could see the wheels turning. Some were calculating their chances of surviving this transition. Others were already mentally updating their resumes. Thomas finally broke the silence. "This is completely unnecessary," he said, his voice tight with controlled anger. "The Preston family has built this brand over 3 generations. Our service model is recognized throughout the industry. You can't possibly expect to dismantle 40 years of tradition because of one misunderstanding at the pool." Olivia looked at him steadily. "Mr. Preston, let me ask you something. When was the last time you were followed by security in your own hotel? When was the last time someone questioned whether you belonged in the executive lounge? When was the last time you had to prove your status as a guest, rather than having it assumed?" He didn't answer. "That's what I thought." Olivia turned to address the entire room again. "The tradition you're so proud of was built in a different era for a different clientele. The world has changed. Your guest demographics have changed, but your approach hasn't." She gestured toward the door, where Zara from the front desk now stood with a small group of staff members, all people of color, all watching with a mixture of apprehension and hope. "I've asked some of your employees to join us," Olivia explained. "Not executives, not managers, just the people who make this hotel function every day. They've agreed to share their experiences. I suggest you listen carefully." One by one, the staff members stepped forward. Miguel from pool service described being repeatedly passed over for promotion, despite perfect performance reviews. A room attendant named Luisa recounted being told to prioritize certain rooms based on guest surnames. Zara detailed how she was only assigned to the front desk during early morning shifts when fewer guests were checking in, despite her seniority. As they spoke, Olivia watched the expressions around the table. Some executives looked genuinely shocked. Others avoided eye contact entirely. Thomas Preston's face remained impassive, but a muscle twitched in his jaw. When the last staff member finished speaking, Olivia thanked them. As they filed out, she turned back to the executive team. "That is your real legacy, Mr. Preston. Not the 5-star ratings or the celebrity endorsements. It's the systematic suppression of talent based on nothing but appearance and background." She closed her tablet and stood. "As of this moment, I am placing the Westwood Grand under direct corporate oversight. Thomas Preston, you are relieved of your duties as general manager, effective immediately." The room erupted in shocked murmurs. Thomas shot to his feet. "You can't do this. My contract—" "Your contract has a moral conduct clause," Brandon interjected smoothly. "The evidence we've gathered constitutes sufficient grounds for immediate termination." Olivia held up her hand for silence. "Mr. Whitman, as Assistant General Manager, you will temporarily assume management responsibilities. reporting directly to my team until a permanent replacement is selected. James Whitman looked stunned but nodded. The rest of you have a choice to make, Olivia continued. You can embrace the changes coming to this organization and be part of building something better, or you can resist and find yourselves quickly obsolete. Either way, the transformation begins today. She nodded to her team. My colleagues will remain on site to begin implementing our action plan. I expect your full cooperation. As Olivia gathered her materials, Thomas made one last desperate attempt. The Preston family still owns 15% of the combined company. When my father hears about this— Your father already has, Olivia cut him off. I spoke with William Preston last night. Unlike you, he recognized that the future of this brand depends on its ability to evolve. He's agreed to support my decisions fully. She stepped closer to Thomas, lowering her voice so only he could hear. He also mentioned that perhaps his son had been sheltered too long from real consequences. Consider this your first lesson. Without waiting for a response, Olivia turned and walked out of the boardroom, her team following behind. In the corridor outside, several staff members had gathered, clearly awaiting news of what had transpired. Olivia addressed them directly. Change is coming to the Westwood Grand. Real change. Not just in policy, but in culture. I can't promise it will be easy, but I can promise it will be fair. Zara stepped forward tentatively. Ms. Taylor, what happened to Mr. Preston? Mr. Preston is no longer with the company, Olivia replied simply, and starting tomorrow we'll be accepting applications for a new general manager, with all qualified internal candidates encouraged to apply. The impact of her words rippled through the group. Some exchanged glances of disbelief. Others seemed afraid to hope. Olivia understood their hesitation. They'd likely heard promises of change before, only to see the same patterns re-emerge once the crisis passed. But this time would be different, because this time the person with the power to make changes had herself experienced the problem firsthand. As Olivia walked toward the elevator with Brandon, he leaned in close. That was quite a morning. Are you concerned about blowback from the board? The board hired me specifically to transform this company's culture, Olivia replied. They may not have expected such dramatic action so quickly, but they can't claim to be surprised by my approach. And the Preston family. William may have agreed last night, but family dynamics can be complicated. Olivia smiled slightly. William Preston built an empire by recognizing which way the wind was blowing. He knows that luxury hospitality is changing, that younger, affluent travelers expect not just excellence, but ethics. He's pragmatic enough to see that his son's approach was becoming a liability. The elevator doors opened, and they stepped inside. Besides, Olivia added as the doors closed, sometimes the most effective way to change a system is to shock it first, then rebuild. As the elevator ascended to the presidential suite, Olivia felt the weight of what she'd just done, and what still lay ahead. Removing Thomas Preston was the easy part. Transforming the culture he'd fostered would be far more challenging. But she hadn't come this far to attempt half measures. Real change required real action, and today was just the beginning. By Monday morning, news of Thomas Preston's dismissal had spread throughout the hotel industry. Trade publications ran headlines like "Shake-up at Luxury Icon" and "New Ownership Makes Dramatic Statement at Westwood Grand." Olivia watched the coverage from her office in the presidential suite, which she'd converted into a temporary command center. Screens displayed organizational charts, performance metrics, and the implementation timeline for her transformation plan. A knock at the door interrupted her review. Teresa Martinez, her head of audit, entered with a thick folder. "You're going to want to see this," Teresa said, placing the folder on Olivia's desk. We've been analyzing incident reports from the past 3 years. The pattern is even worse than we thought. Olivia opened the folder to find dozens of security reports involving guests of color. Many described suspicious behavior in luxury areas of the hotel, the spa, the executive lounge, the fine dining restaurant. Almost all had been initiated by staff rather than other guests. Look at the resolution codes. Teresa pointed to a column of numbers. Code 7 means guest verified, no action taken. Essentially, these were all false alarms. Guests who belonged in those spaces but were questioned anyway. Olivia flipped through the reports, her jaw tightening. And white guests? How many incident reports with code 7? 3, Teresa replied, out of 147 total code 7 reports. Olivia closed the folder. Have these been categorized by staff member who initiated the report? Yes, most concerning is this. Teresa handed her a separate sheet. 5 senior staff members were responsible for initiating over 70% of these reports. All were personally hired or promoted by Thomas Preston. I want those 5 individuals identified and interviewed today, Olivia instructed, not for punitive action yet, but to understand how deeply this mindset has permeated the organization. As Teresa left to arrange the interviews, Olivia's phone rang. Rebecca was calling from corporate headquarters. The board wants an update, Rebecca said without preamble. William Preston has been making calls. He's more agitated than you suggested he would be. Olivia sighed. His public support and private feelings were bound to diverge eventually. Schedule a board call for this afternoon. I'll present our findings and action plan. Also, Rebecca continued, you've got media requests piling up. The story's gaining traction beyond trade publications. Forbes and Bloomberg both want comments. Decline all interview requests for now, Olivia instructed. Issue the standard statement about organizational restructuring to align with our corporate values. No specific mention of the incident or Thomas Preston's departure. After ending the call, Olivia turned to look out the window at the sprawling hotel grounds below. Staff moved purposefully across the property, attending to guests, maintaining the immaculate landscaping. From this distance, everything appeared to be functioning perfectly, but systems built on bias often looked flawless from the outside. It was only when you examined them closely or experienced them personally that the fatal flaws became visible. Her phone buzzed with a text from Brandon. Preston family lawyer called, threatening lawsuit for wrongful termination. Olivia wasn't surprised. Forward all communication to legal team. Proceed as planned. She had anticipated resistance. Change of this magnitude was never embraced universally, especially by those who had benefited from the previous system. But Olivia hadn't reached her position by backing down from necessary fights. Tuesday morning dawned with Olivia's face splashed across the business sections of major publications. New CEO tackles discrimination head-on, read one headline. Luxury hotel chain faces reckoning under Taylor's leadership, proclaimed another. Olivia scanned the coverage as she prepared for her meeting with Zara. Most articles focused on Thomas Preston's departure and the strategic realignment of the hotel chain. A few dug deeper, connecting Olivia's actions to broader conversations about racism in the hospitality industry. Only one publication had obtained details about the pool incident, though the account was vague. Sources say an altercation regarding pool access preceded the leadership change. Olivia suspected that would change soon. In the social media age, someone always shared the full story eventually. A soft knock at the door interrupted her review. Zara entered dressed in her front desk uniform, her posture professional but tense. "Thank you for meeting with me, Ms. Taylor," she said, remaining standing until Olivia gestured for her to take a seat. Please call me Olivia, and thank you for reaching out. Zara sat carefully on the edge of the chair, her hands clasped in her lap. I wasn't sure if I should come forward, but after your speech yesterday... You made the right decision, Olivia assured her. Whatever you have to share, I want to hear it. Zara took a deep breath. It's about the guest profiles in our reservation system. Olivia leaned forward slightly. What about them? There are flags, Zara explained. Internal markers that don't show up on the guest-facing confirmations. They're supposed to be for legitimate service purposes, like noting if someone has mobility needs or dietary restrictions. She paused, seemingly gathering courage. But there are other flags too, unofficial ones. Codes that the front desk and security teams understand but aren't documented anywhere. Olivia's expression remained neutral, though her mind was racing with implications. What kind of codes? P1 through P5, Zara replied. P1 is the highest priority guest. Celebrities, major business figures, friends of the Preston family. They get automatic upgrades, special amenities, the works. And the others? P2 is standard VIP treatment. P3 is regular guest. P4... Zara hesitated. P4 means a verify identity and payment method before upgrading or extending special courtesies. And P5? Olivia asked, though she suspected she already knew. P5 means security watch, extra verification for everything, limited access to premium amenities unless specifically paid for, no benefit of the doubt if there's a complaint or incident. Olivia kept her voice even. And how are these designations determined? Zara met her eyes directly for the first time. There's no official criteria. Front desk managers assign them during check-in or when reservations are made. In theory, it's based on guest history, spending patterns, or status. But in practice? In practice, it correlates pretty directly with race and perceived wealth. Zara's voice had gained strength. Black guests are almost always P4 or P5 unless they're clearly wealthy or famous. Middle Eastern families, too. Latinos depend on their accent and clothing. Olivia nodded slowly, processing this information. Do you have access to the system that shows these designations? Yes, everyone at the front desk can see them, but we're not supposed to acknowledge them to guests. Could you pull a report showing the correlation between these codes and guest demographics? Zara shook her head. The system doesn't track race or ethnicity officially. That would be too obvious, but... She reached into her pocket and pulled out a USB drive. I've been keeping my own records for the past 8 months. Every check-in, I note the guest's apparent race and the P code they're assigned. She handed the drive to Olivia. It's all in here, over 2,000 check-ins, documented by date, time, and staff member who assigned the code. Olivia accepted the drive, recognizing immediately the risk Zara had taken in compiling this information. Thank you. This is incredibly valuable. There's one more thing you should know, Zara added. When you checked in on Saturday, you were initially flagged as P5. I was working the early shift and saw it in the system. Someone changed it to 1 peso right after the pool incident. Olivia wasn't surprised. Who made the change? Thomas Preston himself. He personally went into the system. The implications were clear. The discrimination wasn't just a matter of individual bias. It was systematized, embedded in the operational procedures of the hotel. Zara, I understand the risk you're taking by sharing this, Olivia said carefully. Your job is protected. I'll make sure of that personally. But I'm curious, why now? Why not report this to someone before? Zara's expression was a mixture of determination and resignation. I did report it 3 times. First to my direct supervisor, then to HR, then in writing to Mr. Preston himself. And the response? My supervisor said I was misinterpreting the system. HR said they'd look into it, but never did. Mr. Preston called me to his office, thanked me for my dedication to guest service, and explained that the system was designed to allocate resources efficiently. Her voice turned bitter. 2 weeks later, I was moved from prime check-in shifts to early mornings when almost no one checks in. Olivia's jaw tightened. Not just discrimination, but retaliation against those who tried to address it. That changes as of today, she said firmly. I'd like you to work directly with our systems team to document this completely. You'll be compensated for this additional responsibility, and I'll ensure you're protected from any backlash. Zara looked surprised. You're not going to just remove the codes? Eventually, yes. But first, we need to document the pattern so thoroughly that no one can deny it existed. Olivia leaned forward. What you've uncovered isn't just a policy issue. It's potential grounds for legal action if guests ever discovered they were being profiled this way. The realization seemed to dawn on Zara. You're building a case. I'm ensuring accountability, Olivia corrected gently, and making sure this never happens again, here or at any of our properties. After Zara left, Olivia immediately called Brandon into her suite. She handed him the USB drive and explained what she'd learned. Brandon's expression grew increasingly grim as she spoke. This is worse than we thought, much worse. It's one thing to have employees acting on implicit bias, that's bad enough. But to have it codified in the reservation system. Exactly. This isn't just about individual actions anymore. It's about intentional, structural discrimination. Olivia paced the room. I want a complete system audit, not just here, but at all 17 properties. If this P-code system exists across the Preston Hotel Group, we need to know immediately. I'll assemble a team, Brandon agreed. But Olivia, if this is as widespread as I suspect, we're looking at potential class action exposure. If guests found out they were being systematically profiled and given different levels of service based on race. I know. Olivia stopped pacing and faced him directly. Which is why we need to get ahead of this. Complete transparency, immediate corrective action, and public accountability. Brandon looked concerned. The board may push back on the public part. This could seriously damage the brand in the short term. Hiding it would destroy the brand permanently, Olivia countered. Besides, I didn't take this job to perpetuate the status quo. I took it to create meaningful change. She turned to look out the window at the sprawling hotel grounds below. Assemble the executive team. We need to accelerate our timeline. Within an hour, Olivia's core team had gathered in her suite. Brandon from legal, Amara from HR, Daniel from operations, Rachel from diversity and inclusion, and Teresa from audit. The situation is more serious than we initially understood, Olivia began, explaining what Zara had revealed about the P-code system. Our first priority is to determine how widespread this practice is, she continued. Teresa, I want your team to conduct a comprehensive system audit across all 17 properties. We need to know if this is localized to the Westwood Grand or if it's standard practice throughout the Preston Hotel Group. Teresa nodded, already making notes. We can have preliminary findings by tomorrow afternoon. Good. Brandon, I need a complete legal assessment. What are our liabilities here? What remedies should we be preparing? On it, Brandon replied. I'll have outside counsel review as well to ensure we're not missing anything. Olivia turned to Rachel. The diversity training we had planned needs to be expanded. This isn't just about unconscious bias anymore. It's about dismantling a system that was intentionally designed to discriminate. I'll redesign the curriculum, Rachel agreed. But Olivia, this kind of entrenched system won't be changed with training alone. We need structural changes. Exactly right, Olivia nodded to Daniel. That's where operations comes in. I want a complete overhaul of the service protocols, reservation systems, and security procedures. Nothing with even a hint of demographic profiling survives. Daniel looked somber. It won't be simple. These systems are deeply integrated into hotel operations. Changing them will affect everything from check-in procedures to resource allocation. Then we change everything, Olivia said firmly, whatever it takes. Finally, she turned to Amara. HR will be crucial here. We need to identify who created this system, who perpetuated it, and who tried to challenge it. The first group needs to be held accountable. The second needs retraining and clear expectations. The third needs recognition and protection. Amara nodded. We should also review all personnel actions for the past 3 years. Terminations, demotions, transfers. If people like Zara were being punished for speaking up, we need to make that right. Agreed, Olivia said. I want a complete action plan on my desk by 5 p.m. today. We move quickly, thoroughly, and transparently. The press release went live at exactly 3 p.m. Pacific Time. Jefferson Hospitality Group uncovers and addresses discriminatory system at newly acquired Preston Hotel properties, read the headline. The statement was direct and unflinching, outlining the discovery of the P-code system, acknowledging its discriminatory impact, and detailing the immediate steps being taken to address it, including the termination of those found to be concealing evidence. Within minutes, the story was picked up by major news outlets. Business reporters scrambled to understand the implications. Industry analysts debated the potential financial impact. Social media erupted with reactions ranging from praise for the transparency to outrage that such a system had existed at all. Olivia monitored the coverage from her suite, where her team had established a command center to coordinate responses. The first hour was dominated by breaking news alerts and initial reactions. By the second hour, deeper analyses began to emerge, with industry experts weighing in on both the legal and reputational ramifications. This is unprecedented, a hospitality consultant told CNBC. Most companies facing this kind of issue would handle it internally, quietly. Jefferson is taking an enormous risk with this level of transparency. On social media, the hashtag P-code system was trending nationally, with many users sharing their own experiences of differential treatment at luxury hotels. At 5:30 p.m., Olivia received a call from Janet Woodson, the board chair. The disclosure is generating exactly the response we anticipated, Janet reported. Our stock is down 4.2% in after-hours trading, but that's actually better than our worst-case projections. And the industry response? Olivia asked. Mixed. Some peers are distancing themselves emphatically, perhaps too emphatically. Makes me wonder what might be found in their systems if someone looked closely. Janet paused. Several major corporate clients have reached out to express support for our transparency. 2 have specifically mentioned that they'll be directing more business our way because of it. That's encouraging, Olivia replied. Any word from the Preston family? William issued a brief statement supporting our actions and expressing deep disappointment about the system. Reading between the lines, he's positioning himself as similarly blindsided, which might even be true, Olivia thought. Systems of discrimination often operated most effectively when those at the very top remained insulated from the details. What about Thomas? Olivia asked. Radio silence officially, Janet replied. Unofficially, I'm hearing he's consulting with attorneys about a wrongful termination suit. Let him, Olivia said confidently. We have more than sufficient grounds for the termination, and a lawsuit would only generate more evidence during discovery. After the call ended, Olivia turned her attention to the internal response. How were the Westwood Grand staff reacting to the public disclosure? According to reports from her team, the mood throughout the hotel was subdued but increasingly polarized. Some employees expressed relief that the system was finally being acknowledged and addressed. Others defended it as a necessary tool for efficient service delivery, the same euphemism Thomas Preston had used. Most telling was the resignation letter Olivia received from Patricia Coleman, the director of sales. The carefully worded message expressed philosophical differences about the direction of the company and announced her immediate departure. No mention of the P-code system or the public disclosure, but the timing made the connection obvious. Another domino falls, Olivia thought. Those who couldn't adapt to the new reality were self-selecting out. That would actually make the transformation easier in the long run. By 7 p.m., media requests for interviews had reached a fever pitch. Against her PR team's advice, Olivia decided to accept one, a live segment on Bloomberg television at 8:30 p.m. It would be challenging, but controlling the narrative required a clear, authoritative voice. As she prepared for the interview, Olivia reflected on how far things had come since that confrontation at the pool just 3 days ago. What had begun as a personal experience of discrimination had evolved into a comprehensive corporate transformation that would affect thousands of employees and millions of guests. The Bloomberg studio had set up a remote link in one of the Westwood Grand's meeting rooms. Olivia arrived 15 minutes early, composed and focused. The producer briefed her on the format, a 10-minute live segment with anchor David Weston, known for his direct questioning and business expertise. As the cameras went live, Weston opened with the central question. Olivia Taylor, you've taken the extraordinary step of publicly disclosing a potentially damaging practice at your newly acquired hotel properties. Why take such a risk rather than handling this internally? Olivia met his gaze through the camera. Because transparency is not just a value we espouse, it's one we practice. The P-code system represented a fundamental violation of our commitment to equitable treatment for all guests. Addressing it quietly would send the message that discrimination is a public relations problem rather than a moral failure. Some industry analysts suggest this disclosure could cost Jefferson Hospitality tens of millions in potential lawsuits and lost business, Weston pressed. How do you justify that to your shareholders? By reminding them that short-term thinking is what created this problem in the first place, Olivia replied. The P-code system might have seemed expedient for managing certain guest interactions, but it created long-term liability and, more importantly, failed to deliver on our promise of exceptional service for all guests. She leaned forward slightly. The data is clear. Guests who experienced differential treatment became former guests. They didn't return, and they told others about their experiences. That's not just a moral failing. It's a business failure. Weston nodded thoughtfully. You've taken immediate action, including terminations. Can you speak to that decision? I can't discuss specific personnel matters, Olivia replied smoothly, but I can say that we've established clear expectations for the transformation process. Those who actively participate will thrive. Those who resist or obstruct will find there's no place for them in the new Jefferson Hospitality. For the remaining minutes, Olivia outlined the company's vision for a transformed service model, one that delivered true luxury through equity, excellence, and attention to individual guest needs rather than demographic assumptions. As the segment concluded, Weston asked one final question. Ms. Taylor, you yourself experienced discrimination at one of these properties just days ago. How has that personal experience informed your approach to this issue? Olivia hadn't expected such a direct reference to the pool incident. For a moment she considered deflecting, but authenticity had brought her this far. It provided immediate clarity, she answered honestly. When you experience discrimination firsthand, there's no ambiguity about whether it exists or how it feels. That clarity has informed our decisive response. After the interview, Olivia's phone lit up with messages from board members, industry colleagues, and her executive team, most supportive, some cautionary, all recognizing the definitive stand she had taken. One text stood out from the rest, from a number she didn't recognize. "I was there at the pool on Saturday. Saw the whole thing. Thank you for doing what most executives wouldn't." A guest. That single message from an anonymous witness reminded Olivia why this mattered so much. Behind the corporate statements and policy changes were real people who had been made to feel unwelcome, unworthy, or unsafe in spaces where they deserved equal treatment. Because Olivia Taylor hadn't reached the C-suite by accident or connection, she had earned her position through excellence, perseverance, and an unwavering commitment to creating workplaces where everyone could thrive. Now she would use that position to ensure others had the same opportunity, beginning with the Westwood Grand.